Good evening, or morning, or whatever time of the day it happens to be. Welcome, one, welcome all to the Writer's Bleck podcast. My name is Greg Nikes, your host, who will, on occasion, prematurely announce things like a season finale ahead of time, and then we're in a situation where we're not in the season finale, but it's already been built. It's the whole thing. I gotta not talk so much. Look, here's what happened. I wanted to go out with a bang, and so I booked multiple interviews for the finale specifically, thinking I can do two quickies, two 10 to 15 minute interviews, and I had two interviews that kind of went to the end of the Zoom timer, which good. They were good interviews, good conversations. Love them. You're going to hear one today, but as a result, my idea to put them together would have resulted in a very long episode, and I think we'll let them breathe. We're gonna let them breathe a little bit. We're gonna let our lovely interviewees have their day in the sun, have their moment in the sunshine, and that starts right now. This week, I'm sitting down with singer, songwriter, and just all in all Renaissance man of the arts, Ken Bascue, to talk about his amazing career. We'll talk about how his faith and passion for performance came together to help guide him through some truly difficult days, the impact that love has on his music, and we'll get a deep dive into a few of his songs like No Place Left, Right to Love, and so much more. If you're enjoying the Writer's Bleck podcast, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your podcasting platform of choice. Follow along with us over on social media. We are at Writers Bleck Pod on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. If you want to be involved in the show, you can send an email to writersbleckpod@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to chit chat with you. I know we're going to be taking a break here for a little bit, but we'll be back before you know it, and we're always looking to talk to some more great folks. And as I mentioned, this is the penultimate episode of the season. So please stick around to the end of the episode for a sneak preview at who our last guest of the season is. You're not going to want to miss it. All right, without further incoherent nonsense from me, let's get into today's conversation with Ken Bascue. You're kind of a student of the arts. You're all encompassing. You love to perform.
Right.
Obviously, you're a singer and a songwriter, but you've also dabbled in. Now you're doing acting, and you have this kind of love for theatricality. Where did that begin for you?
So when I was little, my mother sang, and she was a soloist in the church, and she was very pretty, and she had this very dynamic, operatic kind of big voice, and she would really bring people to tears. So as a child, I think because I was the firstborn, she kind of put that little spell into me that, whatever she had, that talent, and that, I'm really the only child that really performs in that kind of thing. So. I think that's where it started. And I saw that people were really moved by it, sometimes to tears and everything. And I was a big supporter of hers. And so when I was real little, she started me off in tap dancing lessons. And actually, at 4, I was doing flamenco tap dancing. And my dad had put a little tile floor in the basement, and she made costumes. And I was entered in little contests and things. And so that's where it all started, I think.
As far as the human experience goes, I guess you see all these old things about people going to see opera and they're moved to tears with what they're hearing, or people who listen to even like modern rock songs and the lyrics impact them so deeply. What do you think it is about music that impacts people in that way that movies or other media don't necessarily always hit the mark on?
I don't know. Music is a combination, I think. It's a combination of the melody and the lyrics. Sometimes you don't even know what the lyrics are. You can't quite make them out or whatever, but the melody still moves you. But if it, some people don't really care that much about music, but others, like myself and my mom, and just, I think maybe even you, but it just goes into your soul, and it can change your whole mood, and it you can hear a song or maybe look for a song to help you with a way you're feeling, and it really, for me, it's very impactful.
You have done a lot in the last couple of years with your musical career. Before that, though, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it didn't seem like the pedal was as to the metal as it is now, at least. Can you kind of walk us through what was that journey like for you?
So I would say I went from being a child that was interested in show business through my mother's dream that she kind of put into me. Then in high school, I think, being gay and the whole thing like that, I don't think that I was as open and taking chances. I was kind of a little bit invisible in that respect. But then once I got out of high school, I somehow I lost a little weight and I got my mojo and I got into a little bit of modeling and that gave me some confidence. And then I took a chance actually before this, there's a whole lot going on, but I actually lost my parents in a car accident. So that was that made a big, but I had told my mom that I wanted to sing. And so she took me to her singing teacher, which by that time was quite an elderly woman. And they kind of analyzed my tone and everything. And she said, I really think you have a chance. You know, it really has to do with how much desire you have, and you probably would need to be in a bigger area, which then I did migrate from upstate New York to Manhattan, which I lived there for 40 years. And I started taking singing lessons and doing some off Broadway, and I got a show business mentor, and my singing teachers took interest in me. And then I had written songs all along, kind of put them in a box, and never really took a chance with that. And then when I finally moved out to Connecticut, once I met my husband Richard, he was friends with a dear friend. She became my dear friend, Kimberly Locke. She had done very well on American Idol. She said, listen, I'm going to get you into the recording studio and you're going to take some of those songs and you can start recording and see, see what happens. So it was, a little at a time. Of course, then eventually I'm getting older and older. And now I'm in my late 60s, but I was told a long time ago that maybe it would take me the rest of my life, not to be too surprised about that. And so here I am. I'll be 69 in December, and I am still pursuing, even with dance mixes and everything. I'm not letting my age or gray hair or anything stop me because I have such a passion for it.
Kind of, you had all these pieces growing up for, this love of performance. Where did the creative element of that come from? Because some people, they make their life on Broadway or they make their life singing other people's work. What was the inspiration for you to like start writing your own stuff in the beginning?
Well, I had a friend who was a rock star wannabe. He ended up in California. He was very handsome and he was writing songs. So we spent a lot of time together and he bought this little professional Sony that he was recording ideas onto. And I went out and bought the same thing. So through osmosis, I just said, I saw what he was doing. I said, "Well, maybe I can do that." And then I had a four track. My brother's friend had a four track and I would I would do a bass part and the melody and put it all together. And I wrote my first four songs that eventually ended up on my album. I did those on a four track. But that's it. They just came to me. The songs started coming to me in different ways and at different times. And it was never the same way, but it was somehow meant to be.
When you are writing that stuff, like what usually comes first to you? Is it the lyrics? Is it the melodies? Is it the chord progression? Is it just like something you have a subject matter in your head that you're like, I need to write about this?
It could be that way. I remember one time I was jogging on the East River, and a song came to me, and it was about after I had lost my parents in a car accident, and I was thinking about going back. It'll never be the same. And my hometown was Schenectady, New York, and I thought, yeah, going back to Schenectady, and the train is here, and all these things. And the idea came. Of course, I thought I wrote the song. I went home and I sang it into a recorder and wrote down all these lyrics. And then I ran it by my brother, who's a co-writer with me a lot of times. And he said, you can't write a song called Going Back to Schenectady. So I said, what about Where I Used to Be? He said, all right, well, that's more like it. And so different things like that. Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to picking titles like that, do you have any that you've kind of left on the cutting room floor like that one that you're like, I can't use this, or someone else maybe was like, you can't use this, or are there any other like honorable mentions along those lines for titles?
No, there's a song that I haven't recorded yet. It's called With You, but I think it's a little contrived. It's a love, it's a longing for somebody, and it just whatever. But I kind of put that in the back burner. But no, I like my titles and pretty much the songs that I have recorded, which are maybe, I don't know, between the album and the releases, maybe I have 20 or 25 songs, but they all have a lot of meaning to me.
You mentioned that you lost your parents at a young age. For a lot of people who go through tragedy like that, it can be very hard to, I guess, kind of push past the hurt to find the joy of creativity. to find the joy for, I guess, just even pushing forward. For you, what was, maybe not the biggest challenge, but for finding that voice again, that happiness again, and leading to the creative path that you're on, how difficult of a transition was that? And would you have any advice for anyone who might be going through a similar situation?
Well, for me, and not everybody will agree with this, but for me, it was about becoming more and more spiritual and digging deeper into my faith and the fact that who made me and why am I here? And, why did this happen to us, my brothers and I? And my mom was only 45. My father was 54, but that was the end of the road for them. And I believe they're in heaven and on to their journey. But um, I think the spirituality is the thing. I remember one day I came home and I was feeling kind of weary and thinking a lot about, life and everything. And I just started to say, you know, daylight is done, no one's around, not a single sound. I start to pray for better days. And that became my song, All I Do Is Pray. And as I was writing that in my mind, I kept saying, pray, pray. And I would repeat it twice. So when I went to record it with my record producer, John Kober, I said to him, I hear it, pray, pray. And he said, it sounds good that way. He said, go for it. So that was one day I came home and you said, like, how do you get through things like that? Well, prayer, and self-expression really helps.
Can you talk about a song that you've written that either because of the subject matter behind it, or maybe something mechanically even, but a song that surprised you while it was being created? And what did it teach you about your own writing process?
Well, one of the songs, and I guess it's kind of pertinent because we're in Gay Pride Month now, is is called "Right to Love." And when I finally got married to Richard, that was a big deal because prior to that, people were not allowed to marry their own sex. So we met and fell in love, and it was very natural. And so there was a threat that maybe marriage would be taken away. And I said, "Oh, please, I'm the most, non, what do you call it, confrontational person. But don't you dare try to take away this marriage from me. How dare anybody, the government or anyone, try to take away my marriage?" So all that passion just went into this song. And as I was talking to my songwriting brother, Robert, he said, as you're going into this song with your passion, he said, think of images and, you know, things that come to your mind that would give a lot of color to the song. And that's how I wrote the song. I talk about going into the park and there's a statue and I can't remember exactly what the lyrics are right now, but and that was the impetus for Right to Love.
You talk about your brother with such fondness, and this creative partnership that you guys have. It's been so fulfilling. I can see for you, hopefully for both of you. How did that, I guess, relationship on a professional level like kick off? How did you approach him? Did he approach you and say, "Hey, you should start doing this"?
I think going back to Manhattan, he would start to come to some of the performances at this school. I did go to a school for about 5 years, and I worked at performing and speech and all kinds of aspects of performing, classical, pop, all these different things. And he would come, and he took a real interest, and he's quite a collector of music. He doesn't perform or sing, and he has great ideas. In fact, many times if I'm recording a song, I'll go in and do a rough with the vocals and the melody and everything. And then I run it by him and he'll absolutely not. This note needs to be sweetened. This is very rough right now. And so he's one of these tough love people that are in your corner. And I remember I had a show business mentor. His name was Johnny King. And he brought me to the Catskills when I was about 30 and helped me get an act together. But he said you can tell the difference between people who have somebody who's in their corner and people who are out there on their own. And Robert has really been in my corner. And I think the way I had a passion to help my mother and to support her, I think that's Robert, being the youngest brother, took that interest in me.
So when you are in the writing process, how do you know when a song is finished? Is there a specific moment when you stop revising it and decide you're going to let it go into the world?
There is, I think. I think you go in and you record it, and if the preliminary recording is missing something, or you may hear a tagline at the end that all of a sudden it comes to you. Um, I remember, I think it's this Right to Love song. I just happen to have it here. This is the right. There's Richard and I. Actually, my brother Clyde took this picture. So as I was recording Right to Love, all of a sudden I hear this tagline at the end, and I actually have a wonderful background vocalist, Cheryl Marshall, who I brought in, kind of a call and answering kind of thing she does. She was very spontaneous with me, and she did a beautiful job. And all of a sudden I hear at the end, "Let love shine on me. Let love shine on me, love shine on me." And that's the tag at the very end. And that's what we added. So that was the finishing touch on that song.
The moment when Kimberly, you meet Kimberly, and then she throws you into a recording booth. She says it's your time, grabs you like this, and just chucks you in like a Looney Tunes character. There are so many creatives who they have that voice who's like, you should do this, you should go get it. What made that relationship one of those ones where you listened? You're like, yeah, you're right, I can do this.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard people say, surround yourself with people that are doing things that you want to do. And when I met Kimberly, it was really a situation like that, because she had been on American Idol. She had a number one hit, beautiful girl and talented, really great talent. And she took an interest in me. We're both Capricorns. So we would spend a lot of time together. We would call it holding court, or we would discuss things. And she just was very inspirational and would not only, she would be supportive in numerous ways, but I think that that gave me a lot of confidence too. It wasn't easy initially because you want it so bad that, you really don't get your full talent out at first. It takes it takes time to evolve. So maybe some of my earlier recordings aren't as free flowing, but all the work I had done throughout my life, because this has been a lifelong process and pursuit, um, helped. And then if you believe in life and good things, you believe, well, this must be meant to be. Look at I'm meeting people and I'm doing things that I've dreamt of, and you suffer and you struggle with some of the down things, but then you have to rise up and cherish the exciting things. And that's what's happening to me, in these later years. And I'm looking for more and more success and fulfillment.
The way that you write, the way that you sing, the way you project, it's all very raw and it's all very real. When you look around at a lot of modern music, you can kind of tell when it's being manufactured. How important is that authenticity to you when it comes to your music?
Well, I think a good singer and somebody who's a really a recording artist who can connect with people is you're telling a story. And when you're in the recording booth or however you're doing it, sometimes it's a live recording or sometimes you're in the booth or whatever. If you're not telling the story with the right intent, you can tell right away. Sometimes the engineer will say, "I think you have a better take." Um, and then you just dig deeper. You just, you have it. If it means something to you, it's going to mean something to somebody else. It's like a soul connection.
Who are some songwriters or artists or just musician peoples that were inspirational to you early on?
Writing, because I'm not a writer of hundreds and hundreds of songs, like
Yet.
say a Dolly Parton. And then I think there's other people who maybe haven't written. I think maybe Elvis didn't write at all, or maybe wrote a couple. I'm not sure, but or Whitney. My influences when I was growing up, believe it or not, were the Supremes, Diana Ross, and the Supremes. I don't know what it was, but they would come on Ed Sullivan or something, and I saw the passion in Diana Ross. And to this day, I'm still one of her biggest fans. And also Elvis. There was a passion with Elvis. Not only was he great looking, um, And the songwriting was just by chance. It was just things that bubbled up in me, and I took a chance. And I thought, well, if somebody else can do it, maybe I can do it. And the songwriting would evolve and become good enough to record, hopefully, and ended up on my recordings. But I think those two artists were people that I really kind of wanted to emulate and were very inspired by.
When inspiration strikes you, when you have that idea or that flicker of a thought, how do you pursue that? Walk me through kind of your creation process once you have that first like spark of inspiration.
Okay, well, I'll use my latest release, which was January 2nd. It's called No Place Left. And what came over me, probably as I was walking, I know I walk Bow a few times a day, but was water coming all around you and it starts to rise. And it's almost like you're going to drown if you don't do something, whether you swim or you climb a pole or whatever it is. So that was the imagery I used for the song. But the No Place Left idea was I don't have, another, I'm in my late 60s. So I'm thinking to myself, there's no place left. You can't run anymore from this. If this is what you really love, you have to go for it now. It's like cramming for a test. You waited and waited and waited. Now it's the night before or 2 nights before. If you don't study now, you're just not going to pass the test. Just turn in the F. And for No Place Left, that's what happened. And I had that imagery of just water, and it was kind of a do or die. And I used that as a lyric. It's time. You just can't put it off anymore.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Where can anyone listening go to find your music and just keep up with all the cool stuff you're doing?
Well, I have a website, so you could always check in on that, kenbascue.com. And I'm also on all the streaming sites, Pandora, and anywhere wherever you go for music.
Next week on the Writer's Block podcast, guys, it is the finale. It's the final episode of season 2, and we're welcoming our friend Cassidy Van Gundy back to the show to talk about her impending novel, inbound novel, her new novel that is coming out in August, Cursed Images, Channel Surfing.
But the 90s one was really fun. I decided to give myself a bit of a challenge too, and kind of frame it as like each story has not only like a specific toy or piece of technology it's about, but it's also a callback to a certain popular TV show. So one of the ones that I was just thinking about off the top of my head is one called Barbara. And the nostalgic item in it is like a Barbie Jeep, the ones you used to ride around in. But I was inspired by the show Power Rangers. So the twist of it is going to be a Power Rangers reference. So just like fun stuff like that.
If you guys are enjoying the Writer's Block podcast, please consider leaving us a review over on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow along with us over on social media. We are at Writer's Block Pod on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Send an email to writersblockpod@gmail.com if you or someone you know wants to be involved in the show for season 3. We'd love to hear from you guys. And make sure you tune in next week for the season finale. It's going to be had a really great chat with Cassidy. It was great to catch up, so you're not going to want to miss it. Once again, thanks to Ken Bascue for joining us on the show today. Guys, please go check him out at kenbascue.com. Find his music. Just an overall great dude. You're gonna love it. Thank all of you for tuning in and sticking around with my insane nonsense. It definitely was not a very locked in intro outro, but hey, we got through it. Until next time, I've been Greg. You've been awesome, and keep writing.